Hi, welcome to All Things Possible. I'm Kris Barney and this is Bill Barney. And
I'm Bill.
We are thrilled to have you here with us in our backyard. It's summer and we love to spend time outdoors and in nature, and we live in the mountains, so we decided we'd film outside today. Our episode today is Awfulizing, the self-limiting trap. So much of the time we get caught in this trap and don't even realize it. And awfulizing is not a real word, but...
No, but it's a real thing.
It is a real thing.
It really is, and we get caught in this trap of what is awfulizing. It's making everything terrible. It's going to the worst possible scenario, the worst possible thing. I think the first and the most famous awfulizer of all time is Chicken Little.
But before we go into Chicken Little, we want to invite you to go to our website and go to allthingspossible.biz and become a part of our community. If you have not already joined us, we have gifts there and some really great things for you to have success in your life and change your relationships and love your life, the life that you're in. So go to our website and get your 7 traits. I teach 7 traits that if you live by these 7 traits, your life will definitely change. You can get the free video series on our website as well as an opportunity to do a 20-minute healing session with Bill. So check out the website and join our community. Back to your Chicken Little.
My Chicken Little, I think Chicken Little, actually the old fable or the folktale Chicken Little has been around for about 2,500 years in various different forms and stories. Just recently a movie made about it by a very popular movie company. But the whole concept of Chicken Little is this little chicken, right, is wandering around underneath an acorn tree. Lo and behold, an acorn falls down, cracks him on the noggin. I think it's called a comb with a chicken. Cracks him on I don't know.
Hits him on the head.
I don't know if he was big enough to have a comb yet. But anyway, cracks him on the noggin. He doesn't see where it's coming from and therefore deduces that the sky is falling because something from the sky hit him on the head. And so the whole kingdom, the barnyard, call it whichever version of the story you want, he gets everyone in an uproar believing that the world is going to end. We're all going to die because the sky is falling.
Yeah, sky is falling, all from an acorn that came out of a tree, a natural process that came out of a tree and hit him on the head.
Right, and yeah, he took it to the worst possible scenario and created a very humorous story. But we find ourselves doing that. You know, if Chicken Little hadn't have been an awfulizer, you know, it really could be that we'd be reading about him in the storybooks or in our history books instead of Isaac Newton, who discovered the law of gravity. But no, he had to go to the worst case scenario and just made a chicken out of himself. So
that's an example of how a story can be taken to extreme levels and awfulized to the point that it becomes something that is bigger than it ever was and ultimately didn't even happen. The sky did not really fall. It was just an acorn that fell out of a tree and hit him on the head.
And we can look at that and say, silly bird, but guess what? We do it too.
We do it all the time.
I've done it.
I've done it.
So here's some examples of if you catch yourself saying these phrases or thinking these thoughts, it's a form of awfulizing, and it's a huge trap. You don't want to be there. So let's give them some examples, honey.
Stuff like, I'm always doing this wrong. Whenever you say always, I'm always, really check yourself. Is it the truth? Is it really what's happening? Is it the reality?
Do they do it every single time? Oh, he or she is never going to stop doing that. Oh, really?
Or, why does it always have to be this way?
There's never enough money. Do you see how it creates this final scenario where it's just terrible? Oh no, the sky's going to fall on us. We're all going to die. There is no any other possible outcome. This is it's an absolute.
Or something like, if I even look at that donut, I'll gain weight.
It's ridiculous, but people say it. And if you lie to yourself often enough, you'll start to believe it. Talk to a politician if you don't.
Even things like, nobody even listens to me. There's not truth in that. People listen, but maybe they aren't giving you the reaction that you're wanting. We need to look at it and really see if it's really happening, if it's really our reality.
Some other things is thinking that we can't tolerate feeling any certain. If I go another day with this heartache, I'm just gonna die. That's ridiculous, Chicken Little. It's not the truth, but yet we awfulize on that, and we create it to be our reality.
Well, and things like thinking that something is more severe, a health issue or something, thinking that it's more severe than it really is, exaggerating it at how bad something can be, and is that really the truth? Is that helping you? Is it making it more stressful or less stressful?
Absolutely. And also just exaggerating things, making them more than they are, and you get in a situation and you get so blinded in your awfulizing trap that you cannot see any possible good outcome, any advantages, any benefits of this situation, because you're going to the end product of is, oh no, the sky is falling, we're all going to die, the end.
Right, well, and that reminds me of the story of my son and his cancer. So at 9 years old, it was really easy to fall into the trap of awfulizing. He was the oldest child. We spent 180 nights in the hospital in 11 months. And he wasn't the only child that was sick. We also had a daughter with severe problems from being born premature and had to have her school redone. There was a lot going on in our world, and it was easy to get in that awfulizing, like, I can't believe this, there's no way. And all it took was us stopping long enough to look at the other people there. Pretty soon we found we didn't have it so bad. I tell this story a lot. I tell a lot of the things that happened during this hospital stay and how we looked at things differently, and we came from a service perspective.
We learned so much from this thing. I mean, there's so many different lessons that we learned. But had we got stuck in awfulizing, oh no, our son's going to lose weight. Oh no, his hair's going to fall out. Guess what? That happened.
Well,
but
and if we can even say what's the worst thing that could happen is he would die.
Okay.
And yet we were faced with kids that did die the whole year. He was one of 10 children with a brain tumor at Primary Children's Hospital that year, and 8 of them passed away. 2 survived. So we had to look at things differently. We had to not look at worst case scenario or awfulized it to death. We had to go, okay, we live every day in the current here and now. What's really happening, the reality, and don't exaggerate and blow it out of proportion, because what happens is your subconscious believes it, and then it wants it to happen.
And then you go into
shutdown. It goes
shutdown.
to work, yeah.
You know, and the worst case scenario, yeah, he would die. But then what? You know, with our belief, we believe that he would actually be in a better place. So was that the most awful thing in the world that could happen, that our son would go to a better place? Yeah, we would be very sad. Okay, but it's that awfulize of thinking, oh no, it's the end, because this bad thing is going to happen. And we just had to accept the fact it's possible that we won't get to raise this child. And life can go on.
And you know, once we got to that point, we were able to take our focus off of ourselves and make a difference for others. It was when we finally said what happens is going to happen anyway, and we need to move forward in the most positive way and focus on the positive and the things that we could do and that we did have control over. We had no control over how many days we were at the hospital or how often he would get sick
or how much we was going to get charged.
Right, and the thousands and thousands of dollars just to keep him alive. Thousands of dollars a month that we didn't have. When we focused on that piece, we did awful. Our relationship suffered. The time with our kids wasn't quality time, it was quantity, and we were all together.
And I actually believe that our son responded less favorably to the treatments because he picked up on our attitude, and that's just a negative energy, and he didn't respond as well.
And when we took our focus and we could do good for others, and we visited other people, and we made a difference. I became a speaker and spoke to other parents that were going through the same thing that we were going through and had a different perspective. We did better, he did better, and our treatment was better. We were treated better with all of the staff and all of the help. It made things so much better to take the awfulizing completely out of the picture.
So that was one story, one example in our life where it was very, very tempting and easy to fall into the trap
Right.
of awfulizing. And we weren't perfect in it, but we pulled ourselves out and we recognized this. So, have you thought of a time in your life when you find yourself awfulizing? It doesn't have to be a catastrophic major event, but do you find yourself saying some of the things that we talked about or thinking some of the thoughts? We have 4 suggestions for you if you realize that you're a bit of an awfulizer, of how to stop, how to change that behavior, how to get out of the trap. And so the first suggestion we have is, each time, just notice what you hear and say. Each time you hear yourself awfulizing, stop and write it down and keep a list. The one thing is, when you write it down, you're going to look at it and go, well, that's just a little bit ridiculous. And you pull yourself out of this fantasy of worst case scenario. And it kind of breaks the cycle just by writing it down and becoming more aware.
Yeah, and be conscious. The second one is to be conscious of your thoughts and your words. What you say, what you think, be conscious of those things. Stop them in the moment before you make a mountain out of a molehill. Be able to stop it. I remember a time when Bill was late coming home from work, and I actually was at my parents' house, and he was gone quite a ways away on this particular trip. And I immediately went to, something's wrong, we can't get a hold of him, there has to be this, I wonder if there was an accident. And in that process, I caught myself then going, oh my goodness, I am imagining the worst case scenario when he could be stuck in traffic. So catch yourself and be conscious of your thoughts and your words.
So here's another suggestion. Set a goal to try and go for 60 seconds or an hour, whatever it is. Just set a goal for the next hour, the next 10 minutes. I am going to think only positive thoughts. And catch yourself. When you start having that as your main goal, to only think positive thoughts for a certain amount of time, you become very, very aware of how often we go to the negative. Get conscious of what we're doing. It's that thing that eats away at us, and it undermines us, and we don't even realize that we're doing it to ourselves. There's no one to blame but us. We cannot change our circumstances. We have 100% control over our actions in the here and now. And so, if you can go an hour, go a day. If you can go a day, go 2 days. If you can go a day, go a week. And then try to go a month. Holy cow, I've done this. And I had a lot of enlightening experiences and do-overs, okay? But it was amazing the shift that occurred within myself and what I became aware of, how often I was doing this. So, if you've listened up to this point and say, you don't do that, I don't do that, so I challenge you to monitor your thoughts and tell me that you can go a week without having a single negative thought or words and actions.
Going to the negative, yeah.
And if you can, cool, dude, awesome. I'll send you a gold star.
The fourth thing that we suggest is to play the what's the worst possible thing that could happen game.
What's the worst possible thing that could happen game?
Go ahead and tell them about this.
No, I'm asking you. So, if you've ever played the Why is the Sky Blue game, it's a questioning game to get to the bottom root core of an issue. Why is the sky blue? Well, because it reflects off the ocean or whatever. So why is the ocean blue? And then what makes... Anyway, it goes on and on, the chemicals and what chemicals... So you get right down to the root cause of why the sky is blue. That's that game. This game is, what's the worst possible thing that could happen here? And you just say, okay, if this happens, if our son... Let's go back to the cancer story. Our son has cancer. What's the worst possible thing? We already talked about that. He could die. So, how bad is that? Well, with our belief system, with our beliefs, we believe he'll be in a better place and we'll be sad and lonely for a while. Can we live with that? Can you live with the worst possible thing? The thing is when we don't get down and analyze that, we think, oh no, the world's going to end because the sky is falling and everybody dies. It's lights out. The end. That's very, very, very seldom the case. Okay? And then, so we thought, well, what's the worst possible? You take it down to the natural conclusion. I want to tell a story about a lady that I was working with some time ago, and she was very much obsessing that she had to come up with $250,000 to refinance her home in the next 3 weeks. She couldn't get a mortgage because her credit was damaged due to, or refinance because her credit was damaged due to divorce situations. You know how that goes. And just like she was panicked. Life was going to end. She could not focus on anything else in her life because she had this deadline coming up and there was no way to meet it. The only possible solution is having that drop into her lap. And so I said, I wanted to take her down this path. I said, if you don't refinance your house, what's the worst possible situation that could happen? I'm thinking to myself, well, she's going to lose her house and she'll have to move into an apartment. And do people live like that? Do they still go on breathing if they lose their house? And okay, it's not the ideal situation, but it's possible. That's where I thought this conversation was going to go. And she says, well, the worst possible thing is I'll have to talk to my ex because we had an agreement that he co-signed on the mortgage with me so that as I paid the house off, he could get his equity back out of it. I said, so you're saying the worst possible thing that could happen is you'll have to talk to your ex and try to renegotiate this agreement. So I said, so if you go talk to his ex to renegotiate your ex, what's the worst possible thing that can happen? Me thinking he'll say no, she'll lose the house, be in an apartment. That wasn't the worst possible thing. The worst possible thing was he didn't have a choice but to sign if she went to him, because if he did anything but extend, he would lose his equity. I said, so what's the worst possible thing that can happen if he signs to extend the agreement that you have on the this shared equity thing? Well, then he'll go around to all of our old friends and say bad stuff about me. Tell them what a monster I am. I says, okay, these are the same friends he's had since you got divorced, right? Do you think that whatever he's going to tell them, it's the first time that they've heard that story? Is he all at once going to change his opinion? Has he been telling them you're a perfect angel and that's why you got divorced? Do you think that's what he told them all this time?
Probably not.
Probably not. It's like, no, he'd been telling them I'm a monster, I'm a witch. Well, then what's going to change? What's the worst possible thing if he goes and tells these people the same thing he's been telling them since you got divorced? Well, nothing. Nothing's going to change. So what's the worst possible? Well, I guess. But anyway, so you see how this works. The end of the conversation is, you know what? Maybe I really don't even need to try to refinance my house. I'll just let things go. Again, awfulizing. We get into a situation, oh no, the world's going to end. We shut down. We can't do anything else because this has to happen or else. We've awfulized it to death.
Well, and we build it up so big in our mind and it's so exaggerated in our mind that we don't think of other possibilities. We don't look at the black and white truth. We stay in the gray area of like, it's so bad, there's no way, and we become the victim in this cycle and we don't see a way out. So stepping back and playing this game and going, what's the worst thing that could happen? So back to my son at 9, the worst thing that could happen is we would lose him. Once we were okay with like, hey, lots of people lose a child. As awful as that is, we finally had to get to the point where it's like we were lucky enough to have him for the 9 years we had him. And we went from a different point. When we went to that, okay, if this is what's going to happen, there's nothing we can do to stop it. We're doing everything we can do. If that doesn't work, then we can't do anything else. And once we got to that point, we could then focus on what could we do that's different? How could we make this the best 180 nights in the hospital that it could be? How could we include the children? How could we create a game? How could we go and do for others? And that's what you can start to see when you go to the worst case scenario and you get past that moment and accept that do what you can, but once you can't change that and you're doing what you can, then you have to let it go and start seeing what you could do.
So I want to share a simple truth with you, and it's going to sound like I just changed the whole subject, but stick with me because it's all one and the same. Are you a goal setter? Some people say, oh yes, I set goals all the time. Everybody is a goal setter. Let me repeat that. Everybody, you are a goal setter, okay? You set goals whether you mean to or not. Whether you did it on purpose, you were setting a goal.
You're a little passionate about that.
I'm passionate about that. And I just spit on myself. That's passion right there. Okay.
Passion baby.
Let me explain it to you in a way that makes sense to this old farm boy here, okay? Setting goals is like driving a car. Okay, see ya. That's the end.
They really are going to think you're crazy.
Welcome to the world, my world. Anyway, setting goals is like driving a car, okay? With your mind, what you think about, what you focus on, what you obsess about is your goal. And that's what I mean by whether you meant to or not, you're setting a goal. So if you're sitting there thinking the world is going to end, I'm going to be broke, I'm going to be homeless, I'm going to live in a ditch, and a truck's going to come and dump garbage on me, and I'm going to suffocate and die, you're setting a goal to do that if that's what you're thinking about. That's the way the subconscious mind works. No, I'm not passionate about this at all. I hope I'm not too monotone. Stick with me. Don't fall asleep. Okay? So, you got the little round thingy in front of you. Steering wheel, right?
Yeah, known as a steering wheel.
Right. In a car.
10 and 2. 3
10
and
2 or
3 and 9.
one finger and a hand out the window. Whatever it is, however you drive, you can turn this thing and it will point your car to where you want to go. Guess how we drive our goals in life? Our steering wheel is our thoughts and our words. The thoughts we think and the words we say is where we're pointing our direction. We are aiming our car towards something. Have you ever hit something with your car you weren't headed towards? Unless you were, even in reverse, you're still headed there, right? Okay? You can't hit nothing you're not headed towards in a car. The same way in life, okay? And you will go to what you're focusing on, whether you call it a goal or not. And so, the other part of driving a car is, you can turn your steering wheel all day long, but there's a little skinny, long pedal down on the floor
That's my favorite one.
underneath your right foot. And the harder you mash, the faster you go, the more pressure you put on it. Goal setting is like the emotion and the passion. How hard you push on the gas is equal to or similar to the intensity of the emotions that you feel about whatever it is you're thinking about. So, has anybody ever had a negative thought and just says, oh yeah, I'm going to go broke, and yeah, and I'll lose my house, and I'll live in a ditch. No, you go, I'm going to go broke, I'm going to lose my house, I'm going to live in a ditch, and the garbage man's going to dump garbage on me.
I sure hope everybody stayed this long.
You're passionate about it. You got your foot mashed to the floor. It's burn rubber time, okay? You got a lot of passion. Where are you aiming when you've got that much passion?
Where are you headed?
Okay.
Because you will get there.
So you're setting a goal when you start awfulizing. The thing is, you're setting an unintended goal. But it's a very real goal, and that's where you'll end up. And that's why you say, people, that things always go bad for me. I never have any good luck. You know what? They have a lot of proof to back it up. Because they created it. You know, why get angry when it rains if all you can think is gloom and doom and storm? Of course it's going to rain. You're going to create that. You're going to call that forth into your space. We'll do another thing on how to set positive goals and get them using this same principle. Gas and steering wheel. Point where you want to go and put some intensity behind it.
Right. Thanks for being here with us today. Again, if you haven't gotten our free gifts, go to our website, allthingspossible.biz. It's usually right here on the screen. And opt into our community and get your free gifts from us. We love being able to talk about things and give some advice as well as tips and tools on how your life can be different. So thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you next time here on All Things Possible. Bye-bye.
And if you're in the trap of awfulizing, get out now.
Yeah, get out of the trap now.
Get out now.
Get out, whatever you are. Bye-bye.
See ya.